What is up, Fabrication Nation? So yeah, this episode, we're gonna pill around the brakes a little bit, and I'm gonna give you some updates. It's been a while. I've been doing Friday videos, haven't been doing much Bibster content. We're gonna change that today. This episode of the Fab Forums is brought to you by Kill Fab Clothing Company. Find all the latest Fab Forums merch at killfab.com. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being patient. I haven't quit working on this thing, but it has slowed tremendously. A lot going on. Y'all get it. Got this too, so more on that soon. Gonna do a full air system in this thing. Legit. You've probably seen the video of the Max line by Rapid Air. Gonna put all that through the shop, so stay tuned for that as well. Bibster though. Well, let me just show you. So I've been working on the brake lines. Everything's done up front. Flex line over here, all hard lined, teed back to the mass cylinder, and then I've run the lines as well for the rear brakes. The only thing that wasn't done was the actual lines on the rear brakes itself. So all that's tied in now. So over to the disc brakes on either side. Got the T, got the line going up. Yeah. So there's a couple little fitting pieces that I made. So in between the front and rear, I got a reducer in there, and I wanted to kind of braze that thing to a piece of steel so I could weld it in there. Gonna do that today, get it done, put some brake fluid in it, and maybe even start bleeding these things. I gotta put some shoes in the rear, but go ahead and bleed it. That'll fix any stopping. Yeah, that'll fix the stopping of the Bibster. The other thing you may or may not notice is there's no engine stand here. There's one block, but the block I'm using for the Bibster is not here anymore. So I finally got the rotating assembly for the Bibster. I kind of mentioned it in a video a while back, or maybe it was an Instagram story or something. Anyway, I waited like 2 months for the rotating assembly. I guess everything was back ordered. Finally got it. I thought I ordered like a $399 setup. Ended up being a 410 stroker, you know, dish piston, good rod, good crank setup. So I wish I'd have filmed it. I didn't film anything of that thing. I was so excited I got it that I rushed it off to the machine shop. So hopefully I'll have that thing back this week or next week, and we'll put some videos together assembling that whole setup, getting that ready to go back in this thing, because once it does, then we can kind of start putting this thing back together in its final form. That'd be nice. Guess I can show you this. So got an 80-pound, 80-gallon tank, Quincy compressor, 7.5 horsepower. Should get the job done in here. I want to build a full outdoor compressor house for this thing, so that's kind of the plans for that. This whole thing is in conjunction with Northern Tool and Equipment. That's where this came from. We kind of partnered together on some products, the air system, all air system stuff. So more videos to come. I'll kind of give you more details on this thing, but yeah, super stoked about this bad boy. It's gonna make a huge difference in here. I've been using like a little 30-gallon Cobalt. It just doesn't get the job done. So basically I just reduced the brake line coming from the front, going to the rear, and then I used the opportunity for those fittings to kind of make a bulkhead, and then just welded, if you can see it, just welded a tab on there to kind of hold it still. Now I'm just going to pull the rear tires off, maybe the fronts. I think I can do the fronts without pulling them off. I'm going to pull the rears off so I can slide some pads in there, and then I've got a suction pump that I'm going to use to try to bleed them by myself. All right, so it's like, I don't know, next day, 2 days later, ran into a little snafu, started bleeding the brakes, and well, kind of finished up the brake lines. I just kind of pumped them myself and had all kinds of leaks. Had some issues with the master cylinder leaking, so I had to like shave. I guess the fittings themselves were too short, so I had to like shave off some of the master cylinder. And then I had some leaks in the middle, some leaks up front. It was a mess. And then once I got it done, I tried to get my oldest son out here to help me pump the brakes so I could bleed it. And that was a no-go. He's only 5, so he said his legs got tired. So I went back to tried and true method of doing it yourself. So if you have a vac pump, if you have a pump that kind of pulls any kind of vacuum, I use this pump for, you know, vacuum bagging carbon fiber, whatever. You can go and buy one of these bleeder kits, and all it is a canister basically, and you just put it on the fitting, tie your vac pump into one side. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. And then you just turn the pump on, open up the valve, it'll kind of bleed off or suck some of the air and fluid through there. It collects in the canister. Obviously you don't want this to overflow and go into your pump, but it works pretty well. Now the one thing you won't have, and you'll see it in just a second, is you won't have solid fluid coming through here, because when you crack this valve, you're going to get air that kind of bleeds in the back of it. But yeah, it gets the job done. And if you're a one-man show, it does really good. So let's get all these bled. I haven't done the front at all. I've kind of played with the back a little bit. So yeah, let's get these things bled and see if we got a good pedal. Side note, I've kind of played around with streaming live on Twitch. So yeah, if anybody plays on Twitch, just you can just search the Fab Forums, I think, and it's like non-edited, it's basically just a live stream in the shop of me filming and doing whatever I'm doing out here. While I was waiting, I actually started labeling a lot of the wires and stuff for the fuse panel. So you can see I've got a lot of the stuff labeled. I'm not going to use half the stuff that's in that kit, or I may use some of it. I'm not going to use it necessarily for what it's labeled for. But yeah, just busted out the old dymo. Started tracing some of the wires back, looking at the instructions, making sure that it was what it was supposed to be, and then just labeled everything. Because it's time to start wiring this bad boy. Also picked up battery cable. So this is just 1/aught welding cable. It's my go-to for battery cable wires. Anytime you really relocate a battery to the rear, which this one is, it's back here behind the passenger seat. I always go with this stuff. It works so good. So it's like a fine strand. Let's see if I can get it to focus. It's a fine strand cable. And it's kind of expensive. I think it was like $4.80 a foot, and it took 20 feet, so it was like ended up being $100, but it's well worth it in my opinion. Makes the job so clean, and you don't have to worry about it not having enough juice up at the starter and stuff to get things done. So I really like it. I've kind of went over that before in videos. Alright, so let's do the other side. Like I said, vacuum pump, canister. I've emptied this thing, moved it over here. And these things just kind of pop right on that fitting. So yeah, you just kick it on, pulls vacuum, and then you just break this thing loose. Just let that thing kind of drain in there for a little bit. Should pull out all that extra air. And just tighten it back. Kick off the pump. And then move to the next one. So I don't know if that got all the air out or not. I'll kind of do the rest of these and we'll come back to this one. Same process for the front. So I got it hooked up, the wrench on it, canisters down there. The only thing you want to be careful of too is just kind of keep an eye on your master cylinder. You don't want to suck air into it because then you got to start all over. That's all there is to it. Pretty simple. Self-bleeding brakes. That's the actual kit there. Focus. Top these bad boys off. Put the caps back on, otherwise you're gonna have a mess. And then we can see if we got a pedal. Oh yeah. This little setup works rad. The most expensive part would be the vac pump itself. You don't necessarily have to have something this fancy. This came from Harbor Freight. And then I bought this little vacuum canister from Napa. I think it was a couple bucks. I think these are like 100 and something maybe. So, although if you got used for a vacuum canister, or a vacuum pump, it's the way to go. It makes the life so much easier. You don't have to depend on somebody else to come pump the brakes. And to me, it actually kind of works better than doing the standard pump and hold setup. Well, there you go, guys. Bleeding the brakes by yourself. Now you know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you probably already knew. So brakes are done. Check that. It's a big fat check on the list. Something I want to kind of finish up was the brakes on this thing. Make life so much easier loading it on and off the trailer, even if we don't get it running. But waiting to hear back from the machine shop any second now, and hopefully we can get all those parts for the engine, start putting that back together and get it slid in here. I'll finish all this bodywork stuff later. If we can get it running, moving, stopping, I'll be pretty happy.